Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross did the first research on the dying, and she marks stages. The first is denial, the second is anger, the third is bargaining, the fourth is depression, and the fifth is acceptance. And so, as a mother, a wife, a lecturer at UW, a pastor, I think Laramie's been going through all of those stages.
I think when you know that your town has been defined in part by a hate crime, you're more careful and hopefully not just careful, but more aware of the problems.
Kids were moving out of town. I mean, that was where I started realizing what a hate crime was. You know, I mean, people get killed in liquor store robberies all the time. I don't think twice about going in and buying a six-pack of beer. You know, but these kids were moving and dropping out of school. Not just kids, I mean adults too, you know, and leaving Laramie because of what happened to Matt. And that fear was, I started realizing, I mean, that's intense. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's terroristic.
Laramie is trying to change. I think that fundamentally and intellectually, people understand what the problems are and what needs to happen. But when you have to put your money where your mouth is.
The Hate Crimes Prevention Act was like, that's a no-brainer. That's, you know, that sounds like something really simple. And we figured we'd fly to Washington, we'd talk to a couple of senators, they'd see, well, that's common sense, it's basic human rights, pass it and be on with it.
Laramie should have a really big power base over the state of Wyoming, and it doesn't. It has a very, very small influence.
It's 10 years later and the legislation still is not reality.
The state has attempted to pass a general no smoking ban in the state. You know, this sort of, I know it's peripheral, but it's related to, you know, social legislation of some sort. They can't do that either.
The Hate Crimes Prevention Act would have passed in 1999 if sexual orientation wasn't a portion of that.
Is that what was holding up in your eyes?
I think it would have passed this last time, but gender identity is now the hang-up.
I think we feel that that kind of discrimination probably shouldn't occur, but we don't need to legislate it, you know, in any way, shape, or form.
Some people would defend the defendants as not being involved in a hate crime, but doing something really stupid and opposed to their own principles. But it's hard to avoid the conclusion that there may have been that element there.
Well, there's all these questions of whether it was a hate crime, whether it was just a robbery. And what I always come back to is that if it was just a robbery, I don't think they would have beat him as severely as they did.
It's just bullshit. You know, did you see his struggle? You know, did you see him begging? You know, you could get a sense and a feel for what happened there. Somebody was violently angry, and they don't always get that angry when they're drunk.
Even when you're in a drunken stupor, you respond to the given circumstances, so to speak.
You get more mouthy, you think maybe you're a big shot, but you wear down faster. Those guys had adrenaline and they were going hard.
I've seen people in Laramie and in the broader community, the state, the nation, people who have been accused and convicted of first-degree murder who've served terms, short terms, and they're out in the community again. Mm. And Russell's never killed anybody, and it certainly wasn't premeditated in the sense that they went out to do that. And he's got 2 life terms with no chance for parole. Mm. That seems to be unjust.
The first time they put on the play, and of course that put a face of reality kind of on what had happened here for them. And this one little gal in the first act just broke down and started crying. Mm. And half of that cast were crying through the thing, you know. It was just unbelievable.
And we had children saying, I will never use the word queer again. And I think that if Wyoming is ever going to change, fundamentally, that culture has to come of age.
The first time my family saw the Laramie Project was in Laramie amongst their peers, and I know I had a hard time seeing myself up there, but I chose to put myself up there. They didn't choose to put themselves up there, and they still had to see an idea of themselves from the lens of their teenage son, and that lens is definitely filtered through angst and hormones.
It's terrible to say because I think what you have done has been amazing. But on the other hand, I think it's shameful that somebody who just tried to help somebody else got so dang much attention, because I would truly like to believe, you know, in my own heart, in my special little world, that anybody would have done that. And it's just a damn shame that they wouldn't, you know.
There was a time where I felt like, you know, I was Jedediah Schultz from the Laramie Project, and it was like, I don't want this specific experience to define how everyone sees me, and I'm sure that Laramie feels the same way. I'm sure people from Laramie want that to be an isolated incident that only happened once and it never happened again, and why are you focusing on that?
If you go to the shopping center where everybody is today at Walmart, ask them about Matthew Shepard, probably they'd say, who's that?
Well, there have been equally as horrific crimes committed against people based on race or sexual orientation since Matt was killed.
Is there a person that deals from the mayor's office with the gay and lesbian community?
No, not officially.
Is there a person from the mayor's office that deals with the Latino community?
No.
So there are no liaisons in
There are no liaisons.
We all sensed that our community and world was becoming more open and more comfortable with a lot of the topics that are in the Laramie Project, but we weren't happy with the pace that was occurring, and rightfully so. And so I think it's been a very, very slow process.
On the positive side, the Matthew Shepard Fund got developed.
They've formed a gay-straight alliance in our high school.
Certainly the university has taken a huge stand and followed through in what's roughly called diversity.
There is, of course, the official Matt Shepard Symposium that happens once a year.
A number of people came out because they felt, I want people to know now that I'm lesbian or gay.
But ultimately, to change the larger community of individuals is much more difficult.
Quite frankly, before all of this happened, I had no gay or lesbian friends. Pretty homophobic. And as a result of what happened to Matt, I was thrust into a situation where I had to interact with the gay community.
We made people stand up and own what they were thinking. And that made a big difference in this town.
Whether we have changed attitudes may be one thing, but we have certainly changed what is acceptable to express and to say.
We're ashamed of what happened here. And it's hard when you're very ashamed of yourself to stand up and say, yeah, we screwed up. And instead we start making excuses or pointing the blame at somebody else or others. We do that as individuals, we do it as a nation, we do it as a community. And that's what I think we've done.
You guys caught me at a very vulnerable time in my life, and I was growing up, you know, and this experience really did put a big curve in the path that I was going down, and really has been a profound impact on my life.